Welcome to the second part of the lecture on German life during wartime. In the first one, we looked at morale in different groups during different phases of the war. Here, we're going to look at resistance and the actual effects of the latter stages of the war on Germany. What you've got to remember is that there wasn't a great deal of resistance, especially in comparison to what was experienced by the German state in the final stages of World War One. There we had the Kiel sailors mutinying against their own leaders. We had Soviets being set up in many different parts of Germany. This is in a backdrop of not only a great deal of hardship, but also disease and starvation. This did occur in the Second World War, especially in the latter stages, but we don't see that collapse in the same way. And this is one of the questions many people ask: why was there this why wasn't this breakdown in morale that was experienced after the First World War? And to some extent, it was the answer is the fact that the German people realised that they hitched themselves to the Hitler myth and the Nazis to such an extent that they were literally fighting for their lives. That connection between the Germans and the High Command and the Kaiser wasn't as deeply embedded as it was in 1939 through to 45. After the US invasion, we do start to see USSR invasion. We do begin to see KPD, the German Communist Party, start to operate underground cells to spread their ideas and encourage resistance and sabotage. This was dangerous. If they'd been caught, they'd been immediately executed, or at least been sent to a concentration camp, which would almost definitely lead to death. Church resistance did increase. After 1939, Bishop Galen famously spoke out against the euthanasia program early on in 1940, and then Archbishop Frings spoke out against the murder of POWs, and he did this week in, week out in his sermons. And what was interesting was the Nazi state did very little against him, in fact nothing at all. There was some youth resistance with the emergence of the Edelweiss Pirates and the Swing Youth, but this was easily put down by the Nazis themselves. Student resistance emerged with the White Rose movement, but again, that was sporadic and small scale. Elite military resistance did increase, and peaking with the failed Stauffenberg bomb plot of 1945. But once that failed, it was quite clear to many of the German High Command that there was very little they could do to stop Hitler. Hopefully they could move him aside and negotiate with the Allies to some form of surrender. But again, as it was quite clear to many of the Nazis and the German High Command, this is not what the Allies wanted. Complete capitulation was what was required by the Allies. Resistance, however, was still weak, even at the point of collapse of the regime. As the Russians took Berlin, most Germans showed little outward sign of resistance or rebellion. There are just some documentary evidence of what was found as the Allies marched in to Germany. Obviously, this was in Poland, in Auschwitz. The scale was unimaginable. The Red Army, as they marched in, could not believe what they found. This was, remember, one of the death camps, not the concentration camps, but the scale of the killing was incredible. And remember, this is even after the Nazis tried to destroy most of the evidence through bombing. Here we have examples. The firebombing of Dresden. Dresden was quite a beautiful city with many historic buildings which were completely destroyed. What had happened here was that the Allied High Command, led by Bomber Harris, decided to use special types of bombs, which basically caused a firestorm. So even though many of the people had heard the air raid sirens and they managed to get to the bomb shelters in time, the heat from the bombing was so big that it basically fried or cooked or burnt everybody that was in those bomb shelters, and very few survived. Although there is a fascinating book called Slaughterhouse 5 which was written by Kurt Vonnegut, who was American, an American POW who was captured by the Nazis and sent to Dresden to work there before the firebombing. And he was actually put into a factory where, luckily for him, the bombs did not reach the actual factory itself, and he survived. But he did witness the bombing, and Slaughterhouse 5 is to some extent memoir of what happened there. And here are just some of the images from Berlin. Here we can see the Brandenburg Gate and the destruction around it. And here's probably one of the most famous photographs from the Second World War of the red flag being raised on the Reichstag. This was obviously a key propaganda photograph, and this was not necessarily rehearsed, but certainly was something that the Red Army wanted to capture on film and then redistribute to show that this was what they had managed to do. So, in Germany itself, the period of the Third Reich, and especially the war, has led to a great deal of debate, and this has been written about by a number of German historians. For example, Ernst Nolte, in the book we can see there, The Past That Does Not Want to Pass, it was published in 1986, posed these questions. Were the crimes of Nazi Germany uniquely evil in history, or do they stand outside of history? In other words, was the Holocaust something that we could compare to other attempts at mass murder, for example the Gypsies happening at the same time, or for example against the Armenians in 1915 by the Turks, or even by the Belgians against the Congolese? Were the Nazis and Nazi crimes a reaction to Bolshevism, Red and Stalinist terror? Was this something that they, in other words, were driven into? Did German history follow a special path? This is one of the key questions that many German historians and non-German historians have looked at. In other words, was there a Sonderweg, or a special way, that ultimately led, German history led directly to the Holocaust? Or if not, were there choices? And essentially, German history is still grappling with these questions.